Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sara Newman, and I'm so happy you're joining me for this episode of Saturday with Sara. Today, I'm excited to show you the Fortune collection from our friends at Stamperia with pattern papers, chipboard die cuts, and 2 sets of rub-ons. So let's take a closer look, and we can start with our paper pack. I'll move aside our embellishments just for now, and we can flip through here. So here you've got 10 double-sided sheets. They measure 8 by 8 inches. The inside front cover and the inside back cover also both have some fussy cut elements. And you'll notice some other cutouts in here too, like this sheet. I really love how Stamperia often includes a sheet of double-sided images like this, where you have a really beautifully illustrated side here with a focal element. The other side has some open space for personalization. Okay, so let's start at the beginning and we can look through these papers. So as you can see, you've got gorgeous collaging, lots of layering. You've got script and florals and swirls. You've got some crystals and gemstones in here too. Now this collection with the theme of fortune also includes a lot of celestial imagery as well as some Egyptian imagery in here too. All beautifully illustrated in a gorgeous color palette. Here's another sheet with some more cutouts. Now this one, you've got the cutouts on one side. The reverse side is a beautiful all over swirl pattern. So it's a really usable collection, I think, too. Absolutely stunning. So that's our paper pack. Then to go along, we have 2 sets of rub-ons. So we have the Celestial, Fortune Celestial, and the Fortune rub-ons. You can see them here. Now, these are really easy to apply. There are instructions on the back of the packaging. I do recommend that you have a bone folder on hand for this. It's going to make everything a little bit easier. And I'll show you how easy it is when we get into the demo. Then to our pack of chipboard embellishments. Well, I took them out of the package and put them onto some cardstock so that you can see you've got beautiful Egyptian imagery here, as well as things like the flowers, vases. You've got some crystals, butterflies, candles. Of course, you've got some planet images on here too, as well as some sentiments. So there are 51 chipboard elements to go along. And with the theme of good fortune, alchemy, you've got a really beautiful coordinating collection. And of course, everything is designed to make it really easy to create beautiful and unique cards and paper crafts. I'm really glad you're here today, and I'm very excited to explore the creative possibilities with you. So come play with us. Here's the first project I want to share with you, which uses this stunning paper as the background, along with some swirls from the Celestial rub-on set. So these 2 swirls right here. Now, I've also got this large cat chipboard piece as my focal. She measures about 4 1/4 inches tall and maybe 3 inches wide on the wingspan here. I think she's just gorgeous, but I'm partial to black cats. I've got one of my own, and I think this is probably how she envisions herself. And I think the image goes really nicely with the cutout sentiment. Now, this is from the sheet of fussy cut elements from the inside front cover of the paper pack. So let's have a look at how to put this all together. Now, I've covered my card front with the pattern paper, positioning it so that I have this really beautiful blossom along the edge where my cat image will overlap. And I'm using a 5 by 6.5 inch card blank. And to cover the card front, I first use a glue stick, and Pioneer is the brand that we use here at Paper Wishes. Apply that all over the front of the card, really getting along the edges and the corners. Position the paper down on the front, smooth it down. I like to let it dry, and then I'll flip it over and trim around the outside edge. Now, I got a bit lucky with the positioning of this flower here. Normally, what I like to do is make sure that I, whenever possible, can align the edge of my paper with the fold of the card. Then that way, when I come in with my pair of scissors, I don't worry about accidentally cutting into the fold of the card. So that's just a little mistake that I've made here and there and accidentally chopped into that fold, even just a little bit, and it can kind of mess up the front of your card. So I like to make sure whenever possible I can align the edge of my paper with the fold of the card. And so there you go. I've got a beautiful, instant, gorgeous background for my card design. So then building up from there, I've got my rub-on elements. So I've positioned one swirl here, one here, and I like to kind of, take the chipboard piece and make sure that I've got things where I want them to go, where I want them positioned before I start applying things. And then let's just take this one here. And you'll notice that when I've cut this away from the packaging, I've kept the liner on there. And then what I can do is just remove that once I know where it's going to go. I'm going to smooth this down and then come in with my bone folder and just burnish this design here. Now when I do this, I want to make sure that I'm getting all of those little details and the fine lines around here, like so. And then what I'm going to do is just gently, slowly lift up one edge and just make sure that I've captured all of that, because if I didn't, I can place this back down and continue burnishing. But it looks like I've got that all. And then I've got my beautiful swirl rub-on on here. So you can put this, of course, onto plain cardstock, but you can also incorporate these into a pattern paper design. So that works beautifully as well. And then I would just go ahead and do the other one on there too. And then position my cat on here where I want her to go. And as you can see here, I've got her up on some foam tape for an extra bit of dimension, and I have this cutout also popped up on foam tape. Now I also have some shading going around the outside edge of my card, and that I've done with 2 ink pads from Hunky Dory. I'm using the powder blue and the lime green. So what I do with this, I'm going to start with my lighter color with that lime green. And what I like about these ink pads is you have a nice raised bed, which makes it easier to come along here and add some inking along the edge. And you can see immediately how that creates some nice shading on there. I'm going to go around all 4 sides, or 2 sides in this case. And then what I'm going to do is come back in with the powder blue, and I'm going to add another layer on there. And those 2 colors, of course, work together beautifully. And it does create a really nice kind of shadow effect. And you can see the difference between these 2 sides and these 2 sides on here. So then coming back to my original card, you can see that this is pretty much all I've done on the front of the card. Just some inking, some rub-ons, and a couple of embellishments. Then for the card inside, I have a leftover strip of pattern paper, which I also inked with blue and lime. And then I have the smaller version of the cat chipboard. And this is overlapping a flower rub-on. And now this rub-on comes from the Fortune Celestial pack. So I'm using both of the packs for this card. And then I have another cutout from the paper pack to go along. So you can see how easily all of these elements come together. And even with just a few embellishments and some beautiful pattern paper, you can create a gorgeous design with a lot of depth and faux texture. As with the cat chipboard piece, I took one look at these butterfly embellishments and I knew I had to use them as a card focal. So here I've grouped the 3 together, creating a vertical line in the center of my card and using one of the hieroglyphic chipboard pieces, sort of connecting all 3 of them together. And when I was playing around with the positioning and the order which I wanted to put these in, I decided to put the butterfly that's mostly brown in the center to break up and kind of contrast with the other 2, which are mostly blue. Then the other element I have on here is a piece of white vellum, which is just right underneath those butterflies. And this helps to soften the pattern on the background paper so the butterflies can stand up more. I'm going to angle this a little bit so that you can see that I've rolled up the edges of the vellum piece. So there's a little bit more dimension. And for that, I used a ruler. So let me show you here. move aside my card, and I've got a piece of just plain white vellum. I've got some black cardstock under here so that you can see a little bit better. All I need to do is grab a ruler and position it along one of the long edges. And then I just kind of roll this up a little bit. And I'm using the edge of the ruler so that I can create a straight line here. And so that I have something to roll up against. And then I've got a really beautiful kind of ruffled edge on here. And I've done this on both sides of my vellum piece that I put on the front of the card here. And it really does add just a little bit of softness and dimension here. Now for the background, I've trimmed down a piece of the pattern paper, and this is the sheet that I'm using. And I inked the edges with lime and with powder blue. And then the vellum strip is trimmed even with the top and bottom edges. And then I glued the piece down to my card front. The hieroglyphic piece is glued down, so that border piece here, this is just glued straight down. And then I added the butterflies with glue in the center and then foam tape underneath the wings to support those wings. The mystery cutout is from the paper pack, and I cut this slightly smaller. You can see this is the design that I've cut out from, and I cut away that outside frame. And I did that not on purpose, but because I accidentally cut into that frame and didn't do a very good job of cutting it out. So I thought, oh, I'll just go a little bit smaller. And I like how that worked out. So then I've inked the edges of that circular piece using grayish ink. Then I have a little bit of jute twine on here. Now this is something that I use a lot to add softness to my cards. And the jute comes in a little bag, lots of different colors. You get 72 inches of each color. And I very often will tie a bow in the twine and then use my Cosmic Shimmer glue to secure it. So let me show you a little trick that I have for this. I have a little bow already tied, and then I've got my Cosmic Shimmer glue with my precision tip on here. And so what I'll do is just add a little tiny dab of glue on here. You don't need a whole lot. Position it down, and then what I'll do is take an acrylic stamping block, a clear block, and place it on top. And this will hold the bow down in place while the glue dries. But you can see through the clear block to make sure that the bow stays in place and doesn't sort of slide off to one side. So that's what I like to do to create just a little bit of softness and texture on my card. Then for my card inside, I have another inked strip of leftover pattern paper. I have another strip of vellum. I applied the butterfly rub-ons to the vellum, and this is also a great way to get some dimension here too. So let me grab my vellum and my black piece of cardstock here so that we can see how easy this is to do. So I've just taken all of these beautiful butterflies as a border. I'm going to position this down here. Smooth it down exactly the same as I would do with pattern paper or cardstock. Now vellum can show scars, so if you kind of get a little bit over enthusiastic with the tip of the bone folder, it can create a mark on the vellum. So I just really urge you to make sure that you're using the edge of your bone folder for this. Same process as before though, you're just going to gently burnish this in place and then pull this up to make sure that you have all of those beautiful butterflies transferred on. And there you go. So this is another really nice way to incorporate the rub-ons into your projects too. Now by scarring, I'll do a little demo of this too. With the tip of that bone folder, you can often get some white marks and some creasing in there. Sometimes it doesn't show up a whole lot, but very often for us paper crafters, we may be the only ones who see it, but it can still bother us. So just do be sure that you're using the edge of your bone folder and just work slowly and with a bit of patience on there. And then you can add in your rub-on vellum pieces on here too. And then as my finishing touch, I've got a chipboard element from that chipboard set to complete the card. A shaped card is such a great foundation for a collage of large focal elements, and I have 3 overlapping here on the front of my center step card. So this shape is made with a die from hot off the press, and you can see here it's just one solid piece, one pass through your die cutting machine. On the front of the storage wallet you can see not only a project idea but also the folded and unfolded versions. When you flip this over, of course, you'll also get a diagram with your mountain folds and your valley folds indicated on there. So after you die cut your shape, you'll have a piece that looks like this. So you'll have those cut lines in here. All you need to do is follow the diagram for folding up the mountain and the valley folds on there. And a bone folder will also really come in handy for this part of the card making process too, to make sure that you've got nice crisp lines on there. Now I've die cut the base of my card from teal cardstock, and I'm using the Wildflowers and Wildlife cardstock set from hot off the press. This is 12 by 12 cardstock, so it's going to give me plenty of space for doing my die cutting. And I love that I've got the dark teal on one side and the light teal on the other side. So then I've trimmed down a piece of pattern paper for just the top portion, and I ink the edges with lime and powder blue. Now down here at the bottom I have a lacy border die cut, and this is from the Luscious Lace die. So here's part of the packaging. You can see there are 2 dies in here. You've got the border, which is what I've used, and you've also got a large doily shape on here too. Now I've already got my border die on here because I want to share a couple of different tips with you when you're working with really intricate dies. Now in this case, you can see here I've got my die aligned on here, and this is also showing the first of my tips when working with intricate dies. And let me just show you what this looks like when you have it die cut. So it's a really beautiful shape, so versatile. I use this one a lot. Now when I'm running this through my die cutting machine, I create a bit of a sandwich, and the sandwich is incorporating the quick release die paper. Now this comes on a roll, and all you'll need to do, just grab your scissors, cut off a little piece of this just as big or slightly larger than your die itself, and you'll layer this down here. So I've got my die with the cutting edge facing down, then I have a piece of that quick release paper, and then I have my cardstock here, and I'm securing everything together with my hunky-dory low tack tape. I'll run this through my die cutting machine, and that quick release die paper will make it so much easier to get all of those little intricate innies out from my cardstock piece, so I don't have to roll it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and get frustrated with little pieces still stuck in there. So once I've done that, I've got my beautiful border ready to go. As you can see, this border is just a perfect fit for the bottom of the center step card. So I could align it like this and have the straight edge going along the bottom, or as I've done here, I've aligned it so that I've got the scalloped portion down toward the bottom. So either way you want to go, there's a lot that you can do with that particular design. Now my other trick comes to gluing this down. So got a little snippet here. This is something cut from a sheet of sticky specs. Now in this pack, you'll have 4 sheets. They are A4 size, so slightly larger than 8.5 by 11. And I just will cut a portion of this because you can reuse it actually a lot. So what you've got here are micro dots of adhesive. So if I peel back this liner, on the orange portion there are very, very tiny dots of adhesive. So what I'll do is just peel this back, take my die, position it down, my die cut, position that down, put down the liner, and I'll smooth that down here, and then lift this off, pull off my paper piece. And then I save this because I can reuse that again. And then position this where I want it to go. Like so, for example. And then I've got this glued in place, but I don't have to worry about any wet glue or glue stick kind of seeping out from in between those beautiful intricate areas. So sticky specs and the quick release die paper are two really, really good tools to use, especially when you are working with very intricate die designs. So then for the rest of my card, I have this Good Fortune image. Now this is a cutout from the book, and I've layered it with the circles dies. Now, don't be surprised when you see my packaging here. I use these dies so often. So these are nested scallop and straight circles, if you will. So I've got some brown cardstock under here, and then I've got the scallop shape on there as well. And that creates a really nice frame around that floral image. And then I've also got a floral accent here layered up again with a little bit of jute twine plus the sentiment cutout. Everything is slightly overlapping to lead your eye through the design. And I've also added some rub-ons from the Celestial collection on the side here. Then for my card inside, I have some more Celestial rub-ons plus a star chipboard piece and another cutout element. Our final project is a little tag book that I made with the Tag in a Bag die set. So you can see that the die set includes the bag die as well as the tag. I'm just using the tag shape for today, and I use this a lot because just on its own, it's a really useful shape to have in your crafting stash. So I've die cut tag shapes from pattern paper as well as some from the plain cardstock in the Wildflowers and Wildlife pack, and then glued some of them back to back. It's a really nice way also to use the sheet of cutouts because as you can see, these are really perfect fit. So on the front, I have this collage design here. I'm going to step you through it. So I have my pattern paper background. This is a different one, but just to give you an idea of it. I've got two of these pillar chipboard pieces, which I've used to create kind of a frame. So I glued those right on there. And then I have one of the cutouts. So I'll grab another one here. And I've just put this on top. Now I glued down the edges, but I put a little bit of foam tape right in this empty area here, just to give a little bit of stability. I also have a little snippet of that luscious lace border down at the bottom there. And then I also added, with some foam tape, a cutout sentiment as the focal. So super easy to build up a really nice layered die design, and maybe a little bit of a different idea for using those pillar chipboard pieces. Then when you flip over the book, you can see here on this page, this is another portion of pattern paper layered onto a cardstock tag. And I've got the Crow rub-on. I love this one. This is from the Fortune Celestial rub-on set. And then I've added a chipboard embellishment and then another rub-on up here. Then the facing page, as you can see here, I've got another lace border, and this is a nice high contrast color, layered with the two cutouts and the candle chipboard, which is reflected in the next page as well. So now one thing I want to point out is how nice this lace border looks as like a tone-on-tone effect. So you can do the same colors and get a little bit of subtle dimension, or go for something higher contrast. I like them both. So then I've got these two pages going together here. This little word, or little sentiment, the world on here, this has been cut from the sheet of tarot cards. So you can, of course, cut those apart if you want to, and that's what I've done here. And then I've got my facing page here, again, a little bit of that luscious lace. And then my finishing page here, the back of the little book, has this gorgeous cutout and an overlapping sentiment. And then everything is tied together using the jute twine. Now when you do this, just be sure to leave some space in between the top of the tag book and the knot so that the pages can turn easily. And that is our final project of the day today. So a big thank you to our friends at Stamperia for this really cool and very unique collection. I had a lot of fun with it. And a special thanks to you for joining me today. We're really glad you're here, and we're happy you're a part of the Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. We've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, just have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 3 to 5 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.